Section 9, Part 2 of The Complaint, or Night Thoughts, by Edward Young. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ania E. For which alone inanimate was made, more sparingly dispensed. That nobler son, far liker the great sire, 'tis thus the skies inform us of superiors numberless, as much in excellence above mankind as above earth in magnitude the spheres. These, as a cloud of witnesses, hang o'er us, in a throng theatred are all our deeds. Perhaps 1,000 demigods descend on every beam we see, to walk with men, awful reflection, strong restraint from ill. Yet here our virtue finds still stronger aid, from these ethereal glories sense surveys. Something like magic strikes from this blue vault, with just attention is it viewed. We feel a sudden succor, unimplored, unthought. Nature herself does half the work of man. Seas, rivers, mountains, forests, deserts, rocks, the promontories' height, the depth profound, of subterranean, excavated grots, black-browed and vaulted high, and yawning wide, from nature's structure or the scoop of time. If ample of dimension, vast of size, even these an aggrandizing impulse give, of solemn thought, enthusiastic heights, even these infuse. But what of vast in these? Nothing, or we must own the skies forgot. Much less in art. Vain art, thou pygmy power, how dost thou swell and strut with human pride, to show thy littleness? What childish toys, thy watery columns squirted to the clouds, thy basined rivers and imprisoned seas, thy mountains molded into forms of men, thy 100-gated capitals, or those where 3 days' travel left us much to ride, gazing on miracles by mortals wrought, arches triumphal, theatres immense, or nodding gardens pendant in mid-air, or temples proud to meet their gods halfway. Yet these affect us in no common kind. What then the force of such superior scenes? Enter a temple, it will strike an awe. What awe from this the deity has built? A good man seen, though silent, counsel gives. The touched spectator wishes to be wise. In a bright mirror his own hands have made, here we see something like the face of God. Seems it not then enough to say, Lorenzo, to man abandoned, hast thou seen the skies? And yet, so thwarted nature's kind design, by daring man, he makes her sacred all, that guard from ill, his shelter, his temptation, to more than common guilt, and quite in words celestial art's intent. The trembling stars see crimes gigantic, stalking through the gloom with front erect, that hide their head by day, and making night still darker by their deeds. Slumbering in covert till the shades descend, rapine and murder, linked, now prowl for prey. The miser earths his treasure, and the thief, watching the mole, half beggars him our morn. Now plots and foul conspiracies awake, and, muffling up their horrors from the moon, havoc and devastation they prepare, and kingdoms tottering in the field of blood. Now, sons of riot, in mid-revel rage. What shall I do? Suppress it, or proclaim? Why sleeps the thunder? Now, Lorenzo, now, his best friend's couch the rank adulterer ascends secure, and laughs at gods and men. Preposterous madmen, void of fear or shame, lay their crimes bare to these chaste eyes of heaven, yet shrink and shudder at a mortal sight. Were moon and stars for villains only made, to guide yet screen them with tenebrious light? No, they were made to fashion the sublime of human hearts, and wiser make the wise. Those ends were answered once, when mortals lived of stronger wing, of aquiline ascent, in theory sublime. Oh, how unlike those vermin of the night, this moment sung, who crawl on earth and on her venom feed. Those ancient sages, human stars, they met their brothers of the skies at midnight hour, their counsel asked, and what they asked obeyed. The Stagirite and Plato, he who drank the poisoned bowl, and he of Tusculum with him of Corduba. Immortal names, in these unbounded and Elysian walks, an area fit for gods and godlike men, they took their nightly round through radiant paths by seraphs trod, instructed chiefly thus, to tread in their bright footsteps here below, to walk in worth than the skies. There they contracted their contempt of earth, of hopes eternal kindled, there the fire, there as a near approach they glowed and grew, great visitants, more intimate with God, more worth to men, more joyous to themselves. Through various virtues they, with ardor, ran the zodiac of their learned, illustrious lives. In Christian hearts, oh, for a pagan zeal, a needful, but opprobrious prayer. As much our ardor less, as greater is our light. How monstrous this in morals! Scarce more strange, would this phenomenon in nature strike a sun that froze her, or a star that warmed? What taught these heroes of the mortal world? To these thou givest thy praise. Give credit too. These doctors ne'er were pensioned to deceive thee, and pagan tutors are thy taste. They taught that narrow views betray to misery, that wise it is to comprehend the whole, that virtue rose from nature pondered well, the single base of virtue built to heaven, that God and nature our attention claim, that nature is the glass reflecting God, as by the sea reflected is the sun, too glorious to be gazed on in a sphere, that mind immortal loves immortal aims, that boundless mind affects a boundless space, that vast surveys and the sublime of things the soul assimilate and make her great, that therefore heaven her glories as a fund of inspiration thus spreads out to man. Such are their doctrines, such the night inspired. And what more true, what truth of greater weight? The soul of man was made to walk the skies, delightful outlet of her prison here. There, disencumbered from her chains, the ties of choice terrestrial, she can rove at large. There, freely can respire, dilate, extend, in full proportion let loose all her powers, and, undiluted, grasp at something great. Nor as a stranger does she wander there, but wonderful herself, through wonder strays, contemplating their grandeur, finds her own, dives deep in their economy divine, sits high in judgment on their various laws, and like a master judges not amiss. Hence greatly pleased and justly proud, the soul grows conscious of her birth celestial, breathes more life, more rigor in her native air, and feeds herself at home amongst the stars, and feeling emulates her country's praise. What call we, then, the firmament, Lorenzo? As earth, the body, since the sky sustain the soul with food that gives immortal life, call it the noble pasture of the mind, which there expatiates, strengthens, and exalts, and riots through the luxuries of thought. Call it the garden of the deity, blossomed with stars redundant in their growth, a fruit ambrosial, moral fruit to man. Call it the breastplate of the true high priest, ardent with gems oracular that give, and points of highest moment, right responds, and ill-neglected every prize or peace. Thus have we found a true astrology, thus have we found a new and noble sense, in which alone stars govern human fates. Oh, that the stars, as some have feigned, let fall bloodshed and havoc on embattled realms, and rescued monarchs from so black a guilt. Bourbon, this wish how generous in a foe! Wouldst thou be great, wouldst thou become a god, and stick thy deathless name among the stars, for mighty conquests on a needle's point? Instead of forging chains for foreigners, Bastile thy tutor, grandeur all thy aim? As yet thou know'st not what it is. How great, how glorious then appears the mind of man, when in it all the stars and planets roll, and what it seems it is. Great objects make great minds, enlarging as their views enlarge, those still more godlike, as these more divine. And more divine than these thou canst not see, dazzled or powered with the delicious draught of miscellaneous splendors. How I reel from thought to thought, inebriate, without end! An Eden this, a paradise unlost. I meet the deity in every view, and tremble at my nakedness before him. Oh, that I could but reach the tree of life! From here it grows unguarded from our taste. No flaming sword denies our entrance here. Would man but gather, he might live forever. Lorenzo, much of mortal hast thou seen. Of curious arts art thou more fond? Then mark the mathematic glories of the skies. In number, weight, and measure all ordained. Lorenzo's boasted builders, chance and fate, are left to finish his aerial towers. Wisdom and choice, their well-known characters, here deep impress, and claim it for their own. though splendid all, no splendor void of use. Use rivals beauty, art contends with power. No wanton waste, amid effuse expense. The great economist adjusting all to prudent pomp, magnificently wise. How rich the prospect, and forever new, and newest to the man that views it most, for newer still in infinite succeeds. Then these aerial racers, oh how swift! How the shaft loiters from the strongest string! Spirit alone can distance the career. Orb above orb, ascending without end, circle in circle without end, enclosed. Wheel within wheel, Ezekiel, like thine it seems a vision or a dream. Though seen, we labor to believe it true. What involution, what extent, what swarms of worlds that laugh at earth, immensely great, immensely distant from each other's spheres. What then the wondrous space through which they roll? At once it quite engulfs all human thought. 'Tis comprehension, absolute defeat. Nor think thou seest a wild disorder here. Through this illustrious chaos, to the sight, arrangement neat, and chastest order reign. The path prescribed, inviolably kept, upbraids the lawless sallies of mankind. Worlds ever thwarting never interfere. What knots are tied, how soon are they dissolved, and set the seeming married planets free. They rove forever, without error rove. Confusion unconfused, nor less admire this tumult untumultuous, all on wing, in motion all, yet what profound repose, what fervid action, yet no noise, as awed to silence by the presence of their Lord, or hushed by his command in love to man, and bid let fall soft beams on human rest, restless themselves, on yon cerulean plain, in exaltation to their God and thine. They dance, they sing eternal jubilee, eternal celebration of his praise. But since their song arrives not at our year, their dance perplexed exhibits to the sight fair hieroglyphic of his peerless power. Mark how the labyrinthine turns they take, the circles intricate and mystic maze weave the grand cipher of omnipotence. To gods, how great, how legible to man, leaves so much wonder greater wonder still? Where are the pillars that support the skies? What more than Atlantean shoulder props the incumbent load? What magic, what strange art, in fluid air these ponderous orbs sustains? Who would not think them hung in golden chains? And so they are, in the high will of heaven, which fixes all, makes adamant of air, or air of adamant, makes all of naught, or naught of all, if such the dread decree. Imagine from their deep foundations torn the most gigantic sons of earth, the broad and towering Alps, all tossed into the sea, and light as down, or volatile as air, their bulks enormous, dancing on the waves, in time and measure exquisite, while all the winds, in emulation of the spheres, tune their sonorous instruments aloft, the concert swell and animate the ball. Would this appear amazing? What then worlds, in a far thinner element sustained, and acting the same part with greater skill, more rapid movement, and for noblest ends? More obvious ends to pass are not these stars, the seats majestic, proud imperial thrones, on which angelic delegates of heaven, at certain periods, as the sovereign nods, discharge high trusts of vengeance or of love, to clothe in outward grandeur grand design, and acts most solemn still more solemnize? Ye citizens of air, what ardent thanks, what full effusion of the grateful heart is due from man indulged in such a sight so noble, and a sight so kind. It drops new truths at every new survey. Feels not Lorenzo something stir within, that sweeps away all period? As these spheres measure duration, they no less inspire the godlike hope of ages without end. Without end. The boundless space through which these rovers take their restless roam suggests the sister thought of boundless time. Thus, by kind nature's skill, to man unlabored, the important guest, eternity finds entrance at the sight, and in eternity for man ordained. Or these, his destined midnight counselors, the stars, had never whispered it to man. Nature informs, but ne'er insults, her sons. Could she then kindle the most ardent wish to disappoint it? That is blasphemy. Thus, of thy creed a second article, momentous as the existence of a god, is found, as I conceive, where rarely sought, and thou mayst read thy soul immortal here. Here then, Lorenzo, on these glories dwell, nor want the gilt, illuminated roof, that calls the wretched gay to dark delights. Assemblies? This is one divinely bright. Here, unendangered in health, wealth, or fame, range through the fairest and the sultan's scorn. He, wise as thou, no crescent holds so fair as that which on his turban awes, O world, and thinks the moon is proud to copy him. Look on her, and gain more than worlds can give, a mind superior to the charms of power. Thou muffled in delusions of this life, can yonder moon turn ocean in his bed from side to side in constant ebb and flow, and purify from stench his watery realms, and fails her moral influence? Wants she power to turn Lorenzo's stubborn tide of thought from stagnating on earth's infected shore, and purge from nuisance his corrupted heart? fails her attraction when it draws to heaven? Nay, and to what thou valuest more, earth's joy? Minds elevate, and panting for unseen, and defecate from sense, alone obtain full relish of existence undeflowered, the life of life, the zest of worldly bliss. All else on earth amounts to what? To this: bad to be suffered, blessings to be left. Earth's richest inventory boasts no more. Of higher scenes be, then, the call obeyed. Oh, let me gaze! Of gazing there's no end. Oh, let me think! Thought, too, is wildered here. In midway flight imagination tires, yet soon reprunes her wing to soar anew, her point unable to forbear or gain. So great the pleasure, so profound the plan. A banquet this, where men and angels meet, eat the same manna, mingle earth and heaven. How distant some of these nocturnal suns! So distant, says the sage, 'twere not absurd to doubt if beams set out at nature's birth are yet arrived at this so foreign world, though nothing half so rapid as their flight. An eye of awe and wonder let me roll, and roll forever. Who can satiate sight in such a scene, in such an ocean wide of deep astonishment, where depth, height, breadth are lost in their extremes, and where to count the thick-sown glories in this field of fire? Perhaps a seraph's computation fails. Now go, ambition, boast thy boundless might in conquest o'er the 10th part of a grain. And yet Lorenzo calls for miracles, to give his tottering faith a solid base. Why call for less than is already thine? Thou art no novice in theology. What is a miracle? 'Tis a reproach. 'Tis an implicit satire on mankind, and while it satisfies, it censures too. To common sense, great nature's course proclaims a deity. When mankind falls asleep, a miracle is sent, as an alarm, to wake the world, and prove him o'er again. A recent argument, but not more strong. Say, which imports more plenitude of power, or nature's laws to fix, or to repeal? To make a sun, or stop his mid-career? To countermand his orders and send back the flaming career to the frighted east, warmed and astonished at his evening ray? Or bid the moon, as with her journey tired, in Ajalon's soft flowering vale repose? Great things are these, still greater to create. From Adam's spore, look down through the whole train of miracles. Resistless is their power. They do not, cannot, more amaze the mind than this, called unmiraculous our way, if duly weighed, if rationally seen, if seen with human eyes. The brute, indeed, sees naught but spangles here, the fool no more. Say'st thou, the course of nature governs all? The course of nature is the art of God. The miracles thou call'st for, this attest, For say, could nature nature's course control? But miracles apart, who sees him not, nature's controller, author, guide, and end? Who turns his eye on nature's midnight face, but must inquire, what hand behind the scene, what arm almighty, put these wheeling globes in motion, and wound up the vast machine? Who rounded in his palm these spacious orbs, flaming through the dark profound, numerous as glittering gems of morning dew, or sparks from populous cities in a blaze, and set the bosom of old night on fire, peopled her desert, and made horror smile? Or if the military style delights thee, for stars have fought their battles, lead with man, who marshals this bright host, enrolls their names, appoints their posts, their marches, and returns, punctual, at stated periods? Who disbands these veteran troops, their final duty done, if e'er disbanded? He whose potent word, like the loud trumpet, levied first their powers, and night's inglorious empire, where they slept in beds of darkness, armed them with fierce flames, arranged and disciplined, and clothed in gold, and called them out of chaos to the field, where now they war with vice and unbelief. Oh, let us join this army. Joining these will give us hearts intrepid at that hour, when brighter flames shall cut a darker night, when these strong demonstrations of a God shall hide their heads or tumble from their spheres, and one eternal curtain cover all. Struck at that thought, as new awaked, I lift a more enlightened eye, and read the stars, to man still more propitious, and their aid, though guiltless of idolatry, implore, nor longer rob them of their noblest name. O ye dividers of my time, ye bright accountants of my days and months, and years, in your fair calendar distinctly marked, since that authentic radiant register, though man inspects it not, stands good against him, since you and yours roll on, though man stands still, teach me my days to number, and apply my trembling heart to wisdom, now beyond all shadow of excuse for fooling on. Age smooths our path to prudence, sweeps aside the snares keen appetite and passion spread to catch stray souls, and woe to that grey head, whose folly would undo what age has done. Aid then, aid, all ye stars. Much rather, thou, great artist, thou whose finger set aright this exquisite machine with all its wheels, thou intervolved, exact, and pointing out life's rapid and irrevocable flight, with such an index fair as none can miss, who lifts an eye nor sleeps till it is closed. Open mine eye, dread deity, to read the tacit doctrine of thy works, to see things as they are, unaltered, through the glass of worldly wishes. Time, eternity, 'tis these mismeasured ruin all mankind. Set them before me, let me lay them both in equal scale, and learn their various fate. Let time appear a moment as it is, and let eternity's full orb at once turn on my soul and strike it into heaven. When shall I see far more than charms me now. Gaze on creation's model in thy breast, unveiled, nor wonder at the transcript more. When this vile foreign dust, which smothers all that travel earth's deep vale, shall I shake off? When shall my soul her incarnation quit, and, readopted to thy blessed embrace, obtain her apotheosis in thee? Dost think, Lorenzo, this is wandering wide? No, 'tis directly striking at the mark. To wake thy dead devotion was my point. And how I bless night's consecrating shades, which to a temple turn an universe, fill us with great ideas full of heaven, and antidote the pestilential earth. In every storm that either frowns or falls, what an asylum has the soul in prayer, and what a fane is this in which to pray, and what a God must dwell in such a fane. Oh, what a genius must inform the skies, and is Lorenzo's salamander heart cold and untouched amid these sacred fires? Oh, ye nocturnal sparks, ye glowing embers, on heaven's broad hearth, who burn or burn no more, who blaze or die as great Jehovah's breath, or blows you, or forbears, assist my song. Pour your whole influence, exercise his heart, so long possessed, and bring him back to man. And is Lorenzo a demurrer still? Pride in thy parts provokes thee to contest truths which, contested, put thy parts to shame. Nor shame they more Lorenzo's head than heart. A faithless heart, how despicably small, too strait, aught great or generous to receive, filled with an atom, filled and fouled with self, and self-mistaken, self that lasts an hour. Instincts and passions of the nobler kind lie suffocated there, or they alone, reason apart, would wake high hope and open to ravished thought that intellectual sphere, where order, wisdom, goodness, providence, their endless miracles of love display, and promise all the truly great desire. The mind that would be happy must be great, great in its wishes, great in its surveys. Extended views a narrow mind extend, push out its corrugate, expansive make, which ere long more than planets shall embrace. A man of compass makes a man of worth. Divine contemplate, and become divine. As man was made for glory and for bliss, all littleness is an approach to woe. Open thy bosom, set thy wishes wide, and let in manhood, let in happiness, admit the boundless theatre of thought, from nothing up to God, which makes a man. Take God from nature, nothing great is left. Man's mind is in a pit, and nothing sees. Man's heart is in a jakes, and loves the mire. Emerge from thy profound, erect thine eye. See thy distress, how close art thou besieged by nature, the proud skeptic's foe, enclosed by these innumerable worlds, sparkling conviction on the darkest mind, as in a golden net of providence. How art thou caught, sure captive of belief, from this thy blessed captivity? What art, what blasphemy to reason sets thee free? This scene is heaven's indulgent violence. Canst thou bear up against this tide of glory? What is earth bosomed in these ambient orbs, but faith in God imposed and pressed on man? Darest thou still litigate thy desperate cause, spite of these numerous awful witnesses, and doubt the deposition of the skies? Oh, how laborious is thy way to ruin! Laborious! 'Tis impracticable quite to sink beyond doubt in this debate, with all his weight of wisdom and of will, and crime flagitious. I defy a fool. Some wish they did, but no man disbelieves. God is a spirit. Spirit cannot strike these gross material organs. God by man as much is seen as man a God can see, in these astonishing exploits of power. What order, beauty, motion, distance, size, concertion of design, how exquisite, how complicate in their divine police, apt means, great ends, consent to general good, each attribute of these material gods, so long, and that with specious pleas, adored. A separate conquest gains o'er rebel thought, and leads in triumph the whole mind of man. Lorenzo, this may seem harangue to thee, such all is apt to seem, that thwarts our will. And dost thou, then, demand a simple proof of this great master moral of the skies, unskilled or disinclined to read it there? Since 'tis the basis and all drops without it, take it in one compact, unbroken chain. Such proof insists on an attentive ear. 'Twill not make one amid a mob of thoughts, and for thy notice struggle with the world. Retire, the world shut out, thy thoughts call home, imagination's airy wing repress. Lock up thy senses, let no passion stir, wake all to reason, let her reign alone. Then in thy soul's deep silence, and the depth of nature's silence, midnight, thus inquire, as I have done, and shall inquire no more. In nature's channel, thus the questions run. What am I, and from whence? I nothing know, but that I am. And, since I am, conclude something eternal. Had there e'er been naught, naught still had been, eternal there must be. But what eternal? Why not human race, and Adam's ancestors without an end? That's hard to be conceived, since every link of that long-chained succession is so frail. Can every part depend, and not the whole? Yet, grant it true, new difficulties rise. I'm still quite out at sea, nor see the shore. Whence earth and these bright orbs, eternal too? Grant matter was eternal, still these orbs would want some other father. Much design is seen in all their motions, all their makes. Design implies intelligence, and art that can't be from themselves or man, that art man scarce can comprehend, could man bestow, and nothing greater yet allowed than man, who, motion foreign to the smallest grain, shot through vast masses of enormous weight, who bid brute matter's restive lump assume such various forms, and gave it wings to fly. Has matter innate motion? Then each atom, asserting its indisputable right to dance, would form an universe of dust. Has matter none? Then whence these glorious forms and boundless flights from shapeless and reposed? Has matter more than motion? Has it thought, judgment, and genius? Is it deeply learned in mathematics? Has it framed such laws which, but to guess, a Newton made immortal? If so, how each sage atom laughs at me, who think a clod inferior to a man, if art to form, and counsel to conduct, and that with greater far than human skill resides not in each block, a Godhead reigns. Grant then, invisible eternal mind, that granted, all is solved. But granting that, draw I not o'er me a still greater cloud? Grant I not that which I can ne'er conceive, a being without origin or end? Hail, human liberty! There is no God. Yet why, on either scheme, that not subsists, subsist it must, in God or human race, if in the last, how many not beside, indissoluble all? Why choose it there, where chosen still subsist 10,000 more? Reject it, where that chosen, all the rest, dispersed, leave reason's whole horizon clear? This is not reason's dictate. Reason says, close with the side where one grain turns the scale. What vast preponderance is here? Can reason with louder voice exclaim, belief a God? And reason heard is the sole mark of man. What things impossible must man think true on any other system, and how strange to disbelieve through mere credulity, if in this chain Lorenzo finds no flaw, let it forever bind him to belief. And where the link in which a flaw he finds, and if a God there is, that God, how great that power, whose providential care through these bright orbs' dark centers darts a ray of nature universal, threads the whole, and hangs creation like a precious gem, though little, on the footstool of his throne. That little gem, how large, a weight let fall from a fixed star, in ages can it reach this distant earth? Say then, Lorenzo, where ends this mighty building? Where begin the suburbs of creation? Where the wall whose battlements look o'er into the vale of non-existence? nothing's strange abode. Say at what point of space Jehovah dropped his slackened line, and laid his balance by, weighed worlds, and measured infinite no more, where rears his terminating pillar high, its extra mundane head, and says to gods, in characters illustrious as the sun, I stand the plan's proud period, I pronounce the work accomplished, the creation closed. Shout, all ye gods, nor shout ye gods alone, of all that lives, or, if devoid of life, that rests or rolls, ye heights and depths, resound, 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 ye depths and heights, resound. Hard are those questions, answer harder still. Is this the sole exploit, the single birth, the solitary son of power divine? Or has the Almighty Father, with a breath, impregnated the womb of distant space? Has He not bid, in various provinces, brother creations, the dark bowels burst of night primeval, barren now no more? And He, the central Sun, transpiercing all those giant generations which disport and dance as motes in His meridian ray, that ray withdrawn, benighted, or absorbed in that abyss of horror whence they sprung, while chaos triumphs, repossessed of all, rival creation ravished from His throne, chaos of nature, both the womb and grave. Think'st thou my scheme, Lorenzo, spreads too wide? Is this extravagant? No, this is just in conjecture, though 'twere false in fact. If 'tis an error, 'tis an error sprung from noble root, high thought. But wherefore error? Who can prove it such? He that can set omnipotence a bound. Can man conceive beyond what God can do? Nothing but quite impossible is hard. He summons into being with like ease a whole creation and a single grain. Speaks He the word, 1,000 worlds are born. 1,000 worlds? There's space for millions more. And in what space can His great fiat fail? Condemn me not, cold critic, but indulge the warm imagination. Why condemn? Why not indulge such thoughts as swell our hearts with fuller admiration of that Power who gives our hearts with such high thoughts to swell? Why not indulge in His augmented praise? Darts not His glory a still brighter ray? The less is left to chaos and the realms of hideous night, where fancy strays aghast, and, though most talkative, makes no report. Still seems my thought enormous? Think again. Experience self shall aid thy lame belief. Glasses, that revelation to the sight, have they not led us in the deep disclose of fine spun nature, exquisitely small, and, though demonstrated, still ill-conceived? If then, on the reverse, The mind would mount, in magnitude what mind can mount too far, to keep the balance and creation poised. Defect alone can err on such a theme. What is too great if we cause the survey? Stupendous architect, thou art all. My soul flies up and down in thoughts of thee, and finds herself but at the center still. I am thy name, existence all thine own, creation's nothing, flattered much if styled the thin, the fleeting atmosphere of God. Oh, for the voice of what? Of whom? What voice can answer to my wants in such ascent as dares to deem one universe too small? Tell me, Lorenzo, for now fancy glows, fired in the vortex of almighty power. Is not this home creation in the map of universal nature as a speck, like fair Britannia in our little ball, exceeding fair and glorious for its size, but elsewhere far outmeasured, far outshone? In fancy, for the fact beyond us lies, canst thou not figure it, an isle almost, too small for notice in the vast of being, severed by mighty seas of unbuilt space from other realms, from ample continents of higher life where nobler natives dwell, less northern, less remote from deity, glowing beneath the line of the supreme, where souls in excellence make haste, put forth luxuriant growths, nor the late autumn weight of human worth would ripen soon to gods. Yet why drown fancy in such depths as these? Return, presumptuous rover, and confess the bounds of man, nor blame them as too small. Enjoy we not full scope in what is seen? Full ample the dominions of the sun, full glorious to behold. How far, how wide, the matchless monarch from his flaming throne, lavish of luster, throws his beams about him, farther and faster than the thought can fly, and feeds his planets with eternal fires. This Heliopolis, by greater far than the proud tyrant of the Nile, was built, and he alone who built it can destroy. Beyond this city, why strays human thought? One wonderful, enough for man to know, one infinite, enough for man to range, one firmament, enough for man to read. Oh, what voluminous instruction here! What page of wisdom is denied him? None, if learning his chief lesson makes him wise. Nor is instruction here our only gain. There dwells a noble pathos in the skies, which warms our passions, proselytes our hearts. How eloquently shines the glowing pole! With what authority it gives its charge, remonstrating great truths in style sublime, though silent, loud, heard earth around, above the planets heard, and not unheard in hell. Hell has her wonder, though too proud to praise. Is earth, then, more infernal? Has she those who neither praise Lorenzo nor admire? Lorenzo's admiration, pre-engaged, ne'er asked the moon one question, never held least correspondence with a single star, ne'er reared an altar to the Queen of Heaven, walking in brightness, or her train adored. Their sublunary rivals have long since engrossed his whole devotion. Stars malign, which made the fond astronomer run mad, darken his intellect, corrupt his heart, cause him to sacrifice his fame and peace to momentary madness called delight. Idolater, more gross than ever kissed the lifted hand to Luna, or poured out the blood to Jove. O thou to whom belongs all sacrifice! O thou great Jove unfeigned, divine instructor! Thy first volume, this, for man's perusal, all in capitals, in moon and stars, heaven's golden alphabet, emblazed to seize the sight. Who runs may read, who reads can understand. 'Tis unconfined to Christian land or Jewry, fairly writ in language universal to mankind, a language lofty to the learned, yet plain to those that feed the flock or guide the plough, or from his husk strike out the bounding grain. A language worthy the great mind that speaks, preface and comment to the sacred page, which oft refers its reader to the skies, as presupposing his first lesson there, and Scripture, self a fragment, that unread. Stupendous book of wisdom, to the wise, stupendous book, and opened, night, by thee. By thee much opened, I confess, O night, yet more I wish, but how shall I prevail? Say, gentle night, whose modest maiden beams give us a new creation and present the world's great picture softened to the sight. Nay, kinder far, far more indulgent still. Say thou, whose mild dominion's silver key unlocks our hemisphere and sets to view worlds beyond number, worlds concealed by day, behind the proud and envious star of noon. Canst thou not draw a deeper scene, and show the mighty potentate to whom belong these rich regalia pompously displayed to kindle that high hope? Like him of Uz, I gaze around, I search on every side. Oh, for a glimpse of him my soul adores. As the chaste heart, amid the desert waste, pants for the living stream, for him who made her, so pants the thirsty soul amid the blank of sublunary joys. Say, goddess, where blazes his bright court, where burns his throne? Thou knowst, for thou art near him. By thee, round his grand pavilion, sacred fame reports, the sable curtain drawn. If not, can none of thy fair daughter train so swift a wing, who travel far, discover where he dwells? A star his dwelling pointed out below. Ye Pleiades, Arcturus, Mazzaroth, and thou, Orion, of still keener eye, sayer, who guide the wildered in the waves, and bring them out of tempest into port. On which hand must I bend my course to find him? These courtiers keep the secret of their king. I wake whole nights in vain to steal it from them. I wake, and waking, climb night's radiant scale, from sphere to sphere, the steps by nature set for man's ascent, at once to tempt and aid, to tempt his eye and aid his towering thought, till it arrives at the great goal of all. In ardent contemplation's rapid car, from earth as from my barrier, I set out. How swift I mount! Diminished earth recedes. I pass the moon, and from her farther side pierce heaven's blue curtain, strike into remote, where, with his lifted tube, the subtle sage his artificial airy journey takes, and to celestial lengthens human sight. I pause at every planet on my road, and ask for him who gives their orbs to roll, their foreheads fair to shine. From Saturn's ring, in which of Earth's an army might be lost, with the bold comet take my bolder flight, amid those sovereign glories of the skies, of independent native luster, proud, the souls of systems, and the lords of life, through their wide empires. What behold I now? A wilderness of wonder burning round, where larger suns inhabit higher spheres, perhaps the villas of descending gods. Nor halt I here, my toil is but begun. 'Tis but the threshold of the deity, or far beneath it I am groveling still. Nor is it strange, I built on a mistake. The grandeur of his works, whence folly sought for aid, to reason sets his glory higher. Who built thus high for worms, mere worms to him? Oh, where, Lorenzo, must the builder dwell? Pause, then, and for a moment here respire, if human thought can keep its station here. Where am I? Where is earth? Nay, where art thou? O sun, is the sun turned recluse? And are his boasted expeditions short to mine? To mine, how short! On nature's Alps I stand, and see 1,000 firmaments beneath, 1,000 systems, as 1,000 grains, so much a stranger, and so late arrived. How can man's curious spirit not inquire, what are the natives of this world sublime, of this so foreign unterrestrial sphere, where mortal, untranslated, never strayed? O ye, as distant from my little home, as swiftest sunbeams in an age can fly, far from my native element I roam, in quest of new and wonderful to man. What province this of his immense domain, whom all obeys? Or mortals here, or gods? Ye borderers on the coasts of bliss, what are you? A colony from heaven? Or only raised by frequent visit from heaven's neighboring realms to secondary gods and half divine? Whatever your nature, this is past dispute. Far other life you live, far other tongue you talk, far other thought, perhaps, you think, than man. How various are the works of God! But say, what thought? Is reason here enthroned and absolute, or sense in arms against her? Have you two lights, or need you no revealed? Enjoy your happy realms their golden age, and had your Eden an abstemious Eve? Our Eve's fair daughters prove their pedigree, and ask their Adams, who would not be wise? Or if your mother fell, are you redeemed? And if redeemed, is your Redeemer scorned? Is this your final residence? If not, change you your scene, translated? Or by death? And if by death, what death? Know you disease, or horrid war? With war, this fatal hour, Europa groans. So call we a small field where kings run mad. End of Section 9, Part 2. Recording by Ania E. Section 9, Part 3 of the Complaint, or Night Thoughts, by Edward Young. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ania E. In our world, death deputes intemperance to do the work of age, and hanging up the quiver nature gave him, as slow of execution, for a dispatch, sends forth imperial butchers, bids them slay their sheep, the silly sheep they fleeced before, and toss him twice 10,000 at a meal. Sit all your executioners on thrones? With you, can rage for plunder make a god, and bloodshed wash out every other stain? But you, perhaps, can't bleed. From matter gross your spirits clean, are delicately clad in fine-spun ether, privileged to soar, unloaded, uninfected. How unlike the lot of man! How few of human race by their own mud unmurdered! How we wage self-war eternal! Is your painful day of hardy conflict o'er? Or are you still raw candidates at school, and have you those who disaffect reversions, as with us? But what are we? You never heard of man or earth, the bedlam of the universe, where reason, undiseased with you, runs mad, and nurses folly's children as her own, fond of the foulest, in the sacred mount of holiness, where reason is pronounced infallible, and thunders like a god. Even there, by saints, the demons are outdone. What these think wrong, our saints refine to right, and kindly teach dull hell her own black arts. Satan instructed o'er their morals smiles. But this, how strange to you, who know not man! Has the least rumor of our race arrived? Called here Elijah in his flaming car? Passed by you the good Enoch on his road to those fair fields where Lucifer was hurled, who brushed, perhaps, your sphere in his descent, stained your pure crystal ether, or let fall a short eclipse from his portentous shade? Oh, that the fiend had lodged on some broad orb athwart his way, nor reached his present home, then blackened earth with footsteps fouled in hell, nor washed in ocean, as from Rome he passed to Britain's isle, too conspicuous there. But this is all digression. Where is he, that o'er heaven's battlements the felon hurled, to groans and chains and darkness? Where is he who sees creation's summit in a wail? He whom, while man is man, he can't but seek, and if he finds, commences more than man? Oh, for a telescope his throne to reach! Tell me, ye learned on earth, or blessed above, ye searching, ye Newtonian angels, tell, where your great master's orb, his planets, where those conscious satellites, those morning stars, first born of deity from central love, by veneration most profound, thrown off, by sweet attraction no less strongly drawn, awed and yet raptured yet serene, past thought illustrious, but with borrowed beams, in still approaching circles, still remote, revolving round the sun's eternal sire? Or sent in lines direct on embassies to nations? In what latitude? beyond terrestrial thought's horizon, and on what high errand sent? Here human effort ends, and leaves me still a stranger to his throne. Full well it might, I quite mistook my road, born in an age more curious than devout, more fond to fix the place of heaven or hell, than studious this to shun, or that secure. 'Tis not the curious, but the pious path that leads me to my point. Lorenzo, no, without or star or angel for their guide, who worship God shall find him. Humble love, and not proud reason, keeps the door of heaven. Love finds admission where proud science fails. Man's science is the culture of his heart, and not to lose his plummet in the depths of nature or the more profound of God. Either to know is an attempt that sets the wisest on a level with the fool. To fathom nature, ill attempted here, past doubt, is a deep philosophy above. Higher degrees in bliss archangels take, as deeper learned, the deepest learning still. For what a thunder of omnipotence, so might I dare to speak, is seen in all, in man, in earth, in more amazing skies. Teaching this lesson, pride is loath to learn, not deeply to discern, not much to know. Mankind was born to wonder and adore. And is there a cause for higher wonder still than that which struck us from our past sore ways? Yes, and for deeper adoration too. From my late airy travel unconfined, have I learned nothing? Yes, Lorenzo, this. Each of these stars is a religious house. I saw their altars smoke, their incense rise, and heard hosannas ring through every sphere. A seminary fraught with future gods. Nature all o'er is consecrated ground, teeming with growths immortal and divine. The great proprietor's all bounteous hand leaves nothing waste, but sows these fiery fields with seeds of reason, which to virtues rise beneath his genial ray, and, if escaped, the pestilential blasts of stubborn will, when grown mature, are gathered for the skies. And is devotion thought too much on earth, when beings so superior homage boast, and triumph in prostrations to the throne? But wherefore more of planets or of stars, ethereal journeys, and discovered there 10,000 worlds, 10,000 ways devout, all nature sending incense to the throne, except the bold Lorenzos of our sphere, opening the solemn sources of my soul, since I have poured like feigned Eridanus my flowing numbers o'er the flaming skies, nor see of fancy or of fact what more invites the muse. Here turn we and review our past nocturnal landscape wide. Then say then, Lorenzo, with what burst of heart the whole at once, revolving in his thought, must man exclaim, adoring and aghast, "Oh, what a root! Oh, what a branch is here! Oh, what a father, what a family! Worlds, systems, and creations, in one agglomerated cluster, hung. Great wine, on thee the cluster hangs, the filial cluster, infinitely spread, in glowing globes, with various being fraught, and drinks, nectareous draught, immortal life, or shall I say, for who can say enough, a constellation of 10,000 gems, and oh, of what dimension, of what weight, set in one signet, flames on the right hand, of majesty divine, the blazing seal that deeply stamps on all created mind, indelible, his sovereign attributes, omnipotence, and love, that passing bound, and this surpassing that. Nor stop we here, for want of power in God, but thought in man. Even this acknowledged leaves us still in debt. If greater aught, that greater all is thine. Dread sire, accept this miniature of thee, and pardon an attempt from mortal thought in which archangels might have failed unblamed. How such ideas of the Almighty's power and such ideas of the Almighty's plan, ideas not absurd, distend the thought of feeble mortals, nor of them alone. The fullness of the Deity breaks forth in inconceivables to men and gods. Think then, oh think, nor ever drop the thought, how low must man descend when gods adore. Have I not then accomplished my proud boast? Did I not tell thee we would mount, Lorenzo, and kindle our devotion and the stars? And have I failed, and did I flatter thee, and art all adamant, and dost confute, all urged with one irrefragable smile? Lorenzo, mirth how miserable here! Swear by the stars, by him who made them, swear. Thy heart, henceforth, shall be as pure as they. Then thou, like them, shalt shine. Like them shalt rise, from low to lofty, from obscure to bright, by due gradation, nature's sacred law. The stars, from whence? Ask Chaos, he can tell. These bright temptations to idolatry, from darkness and confusion, took their birth. Sons of deformity, from fluid dregs, Tartarian, first they rose to masses rude, and then to spheres opaque, then dimly shone, then brightened, then blazed out in perfect day. Nature delights in progress and advance from worse to better, but when minds ascend, progress in part depends upon themselves. Heaven aids exertion, greater makes the great, the voluntary little lessons more. Oh, be a man, and thou shalt be a god, and half self-made. Ambition, how divine! O thou, ambitious of disgrace alone, still undevout, unkindled, though high-trot, schooled by the skies and pupil of the stars, ran coward to the fashionable world. Art thou ashamed to bend thy knee to heaven? Cursed fume of pride, exhaled from deepest hell. Pride in religion is man's highest praise, bent on destruction, and in love with death. Not all these luminaries, quenched at once, were half so sad as one benighted mind, which gropes for happiness and meets despair. How, like a widow in her weeds, the night, amid her glimmering tapers, silent sits! How sorrowful, how desolate, she weeps! Perpetual dews and saddens nature's scene. A scene more sad, sin makes the darkened soul. All comfort kills, nor leaves one spark alive. Though blind of heart, still open is thine eye. Why such magnificence in all thou seest? Of matter's grandeur, no, one end is this, to tell the rational who gazes on it. Though that immensely great, still greater he, whose breast capacious can embrace and lodge, unburdened, nature's universal scheme, can grasp creation with a single thought. Creation grasp, and not exclude, its sire. To tell him, farther, it behoves him much to guard the important, yet depending, fate of being. Brighter than 1,000 suns, one single ray of thought outshines them all. And if man hears obedient, soon he'll soar superior heights, and on his purple wing be dropped with eyes of gold, rising, where thought is now denied to rise, look down, triumphant, on those dazzling spheres. Why then persist? No mortal ever lived, but dying he pronounced, when words are true, the whole that charms thee absolutely wane and far worse. Think thou, would dying men, oh, condescend to think as angels think, oh, tolerate a chance for happiness. Our nature such, ill choice ensures ill fate. And hell had been, though there had been no God. Dost thou not know, my new astronomer? Earth, turning from the sun, brings night to man. Man, turning from his God, brings endless night. Where thou canst read no morals, find no friend, amend no manners, and expect no peace. How deep the darkness, and the groan, how loud, and how far from lambent are the flames. Such is Lorenzo's purchase, such his praise. The proud, the politic, Lorenzo's praise. Though in his ear, and levelled at his heart, I've half read o'er the volume of the skies. For think not thou hast heard all this from me. My song but echoes what great nature speaks. What has she spoken? Thus the goddess spoke, thus speaks forever. Place at nature's head a sovereign, which o'er all things rolls his eye, extends his wing, promulgates his commands, but above all diffuses endless good. To whom, for sure redress, the wronged may fly, the while for mercy, and the pained for peace. By whom the various tenants of these spheres, diversified in fortunes, place, and powers, raised in enjoyment, as in worth they raise, arrive at length, if worthy such approach, at that blessed fountain head from which they stream, where conflict past redoubles present joy, and present joy looks forward on increase, and that on more, no period, every step a double boon, a promise, and a bliss. How easy sits this scheme on human hearts! It suits their make, it suits their vast desires. Passion is pleased, and reason asks no more. 'Tis rational, 'tis great, but what is thine? It darkens, shocks, excruciates, and confounds. Leaves us quite naked, both of help and hope, sinking from bad to worse, few years the sport of fortune, then the morsel of despair. Say then, Lorenzo, for thou know'st it well, what's vice? Mere want of compass in our thought. Religion, what? The proof of common sense. How art thou hooted where the least prevails? Is it my fault if these truths call thee fool? And thou shalt never be miscalled by me. Can neither shame nor terror stand thy friend? And art thou still an insect in the mire? How like thy guardian angel have I flown, snatched thee from earth, escorted thee through all the ethereal armies, walked thee like a god through splendors of first magnitude arranged on either hand. Clouds thrown beneath thy feet, close cruised on the bright paradise of God, and almost introduced thee to the throne. And art thou still carousing for delight, rank poison, first fermenting to mere froth, and then subsiding into final gall? To beings of sublime, immortal make, how shocking is all joy, whose end is sure! Such joy, more shocking still, the more it charms. And dost thou choose what ends well begun and infamous as short? And dost thou choose, thou to whose palate glories so sweet, to wade into perdition through contempt not of poor bigots only, but thy own? For I have peeped into thy covered heart, and seen it blush beneath a boastful brow. For by strong guilt's most violent assault, conscience is but disabled, not destroyed. O thou most awful being, and most vain! Thy will, how frail, how glorious is thy power, though dread eternity has sown her seeds of bliss and woe in thy despotic breast, though heaven and hell depend upon thy choice, a butterfly comes across, and both are fled. Is this the picture of a rationale? This horrid image, shall it be most just? Lorenzo, no, it cannot, shall not be, if there is force in reason, or in sounds chanted beneath the glimpses of the moon. A magic at this planetary hour, when slumber locks the general lip, and dreams through seamless mazes hunt souls uninspired. Attend, the sacred mysteries begin. My solemn night-born adjuration hear. Hear, and I'll raise thy spirit from the dust, while the stars gaze on this enchantment new, enchantment not infernal, but divine, by silence, death's peculiar attribute, by darkness, guilt's inevitable doom, by darkness and by silence, sisters dread, that draw the curtain round night's ebon throne, and raise ideas, solemn as the scene. By night and all of awful, night presents, to thought or sense, of awful much to both the goddess brings. By these her trembling fires, like Vesta's, ever burning, and like hers, sacred to thoughts immaculate and pure. By these bright orators that prove and praise and press thee to revere the deity, perhaps to aid thee, when revered awhile, to reach his throne, as stages of the soul through which, at different periods, she shall pass, refining gradual for her final height, and purging off some dross at every sphere, by this dark pall thrown o'er the silent world. By the world's kings and kingdoms most renowned, from short ambition's zenith set forever, sad presage to vain boasters, now in bloom, by the long list of swift mortality, from Adam downward to this evening knell, which midnight waves on fancy's startled eye, and shocks her within 100 centuries, round death's black banner thronged in human thought, by thousands now resigning their last breath, and calling thee, wert thou so wise to hear, by tombs o'er tombs arising, human earth, ejected to make room for human earth. The monarch's terror and the sexton's trade, by pompous obsequies that shun the day, the torch funeral, and the nodding plume, which makes poor man's humiliation proud, boast of our ruin, triumph of our dust, by the damp vault that weeps o'er royal bones, and the pale lamp that shows the ghastly dead, more ghastly, through the thick incumbent gloom, by visits, if there are, from darker scenes, the gliding spectre, and the groaning grave, by groans and graves, and miseries that groan, for the grave's shelter, by desponding men, senseless to pains of death, from pangs of guilt, by guilt's last audit, by yon moon in blood, the rocking firmament, the falling stars, and thunder's last discharge, great nature's knell, by second chaos and eternal night. Be wise, nor let philander blame my charm, but own not ill discharged my double debt, love to the living, duty to the dead. For know I'm but executor, he left this moral legacy. I make it o'er by his command, philander here in me, and heaven in both. If deaf to these, oh, hear Florello's tender voice, his weal depends on thy resolve, it trembles at thy choice. For his sake, love thyself. Example strikes all human hearts, a bad example more still of father's, that ensures his ruin. As parent of his being, wouldst thou prove the unnatural parent of his miseries, and make him curse the being which thou gavest? Is this the blessing of so fond a father? If careless of Lorenzo, spare, oh spare! Florello's father and Philander's friend. Florello's father ruined, ruins him, and from Philander's friend the world expects a conduct. No dishonor to the dead. Let passion do what nobler motive should. Let love and emulation rise in aid to reason, and persuade thee to be blessed. This seems not a request to be denied, yet such the infatuation of mankind. 'Tis the most hopeless man can make to man. Shall I then rise in argument and warmth, and urge Philander's posthumous advice from topics yet unbroached? But oh, I faint, my spirits fail, nor strange, so long on wing and in no middle clime, to which my great Creator's glory called, and calls, but now in vain. Sleep's dewy wand has stroked my drooping lips, and promises my long arrear of rest. The downy God, wont to return with our returning peace, will pay ere long, and bless me with repose. Haste, haste, sweet stranger, from the peasant's cot, the shipboy's hammock or the soldier's straw, when sorrow never chased thee. With thee bring not hideous visions as of late, but draughts, delicious a well-tasted, cordial rest, man's rich restorative, his balmy bath, that supplies, lubricates, and keeps in play the various movements of his nice machine, which asks such frequent periods of repair. When tired with vain rotations of the day, sleep winds us up for the succeeding dawn. Fresh we spin on till sickness clogs our wheels, or death quite breaks the spring and motion ends. When will it end? With me? Thou only knowst, thou whose broad eye the future and the past joins to the present, making one of three to moral thought. Thou knowst, and thou alone, all knowing, all unknown, and yet well known, near though remote, and though unfathomed, felt, and though invisible, forever seen, and seen in all, the great and the minute. Each globe above with its gigantic race, each flower, each leaf with its small people swarmed, those puny vouchers of omnipotence, to the first thought that asks, from whence? Declare their common source. Thou fountain, running o'er in rivers of communicated joy, who gavest us speech for far, far humbler themes, say, by what name shall I presume to call him I see burning in these countless suns, as Moses in the bush? Illustrious mind, the whole creation, less, far less to thee than that to the creation's ample round. How shall I name thee? How my laboring soul heaves underneath the thought, too big for birth. Great system of perfections, mighty cause of causes mighty, cause uncaused, sole root of nature, that luxuriant growth of God, first father of effects, that progeny of endless series, where the golden chain's last link admits a period, who can tell? Father of all that is o'erheard, or hears, Father of all that is or seen, or sees, Father of all that is, or shall arise, Father of this immeasurable mass, of matter multiform, or dense, or rare, opaque, or lucid, rapid, or at rest, minute, or passing bound, in each extreme of like amaze and mystery to man, Father of these bright millions of the night, of which the least full Godhead had proclaimed, enthroned, the gazer on his knee, or say, is appellation higher still thy choice? Father of matter's temporary lords, Father of spirits, nobler offspring, sparks of high paternal glory, rich endowed with various measures and with various modes of instinct, reason, intuition, beams more pale or bright from day divine, to break the dark of matter organized, the wear of all created spirit, beams that rise each over other in superior light, till the last ripens into luster strong, of next approach to Godhead. Father fond, far fonder than e'er bore that name on earth, of intellectual beings, beings blessed, with powers to please thee, not of passive ply to laws they know not, beings lodged in seats of well-adapted joys, in different domes of this imperial palace for thy sons, of this proud populace well policide, though boundless habitation, planned by thee, whose several clans their several climates suit, and transposition, doubtless, would destroy. Or, oh, indulge, immortal King, indulge, a title, less august indeed, but more endearing. Ah, how sweet in human ears, sweet in our ears and triumph in our hearts, Father of immortality to man. A theme that lately set my soul on fire, and thou the next, yet equal, thou by whom that blessing was conveyed, far more was bought, ineffable, the price, by whom all worlds were made, and one redeemed, illustrious light from light illustrious, thou whose regal power finite in time but infinite in space, on more than adamantine basis fixed, or more, far more, than diadems and thrones, inviolably reigns, the dread of gods. And oh, the friend of man, beneath whose foot and by the mandate of whose awful nod, all regions, revolutions, fortunes, fate, of high, of low, of mind, and matter, roll through the short channels of expiring time, or shoreless ocean of eternity, calm or tempestuous as thy spirit breeds, in absolute subjection. And O thou, the glorious third, distinct, not separate, beaming from both, with both incorporate, and strange to tell, incorporate with dust. By condensation is thy glory great, enshrined in man, of human hearts if pure, divine inhabitant, the tie divine of heaven with distant earth, by whom I trust, if not inspired, uncensured this address, to thee, to them, to whom? Mysterious power, revealed yet unrevealed, darkness and light, number and unity, our joy, our dread, the triple bolt that lays all wrong in ruin, that animates all right, the triple sun, sun of the soul, her never-setting sun, triune, unutterable, unconceived, absconding yet demonstrable, great God, greater than greatest, better than the best, kinder than kindest, with soft pity's eye, or stronger still to speak it, with thine own. From thy bright home, from that high firmament, where thou from all eternity hast dwelt, beyond archangels' unassisted ken, from far above when mortals highest call, from elevation's pinnacle, look down, through what? Confounding interval? Through all and more than laboring fancy can conceive, through radiant rings of essences unknown, through hierarchies from hierarchies detached, round various banners of omnipotence, with endless change of rapturous duties fired, through wondrous beings interposing swarms, all clustering at the call to dwell in thee, through this wide waste of worlds, this vista vast, all sanded o'er with suns, suns turned to night before thy feeblest beam. Look down, 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 on a poor breathing particle in dust, or lower, an immortal in his crimes forgive his virtues too, those smaller faults, half converts to the right, nor let me close these eyes, which never more may see the sun, though night's descending scale now weighs up morn, unpitied and unblessed. In thy displeasure dwells eternal pain, pain our aversion, pain which strikes me now, and since all pain is terrible to man, though transient, terrible, at thy good hour, gently, gently, lay me in my bed, my clay-clawed bed, by nature now, so near, by nature near, still nearer by disease. Till then, be this an emblem of my grave. Let it out. Preach the preacher every night, let it out. Cry the boy at Philip's year. That tongue of death, that herald of the tomb. And when, the shelter of thy wing implored, my senses, soothed, shall sink in soft repose, oh, sink this truth still deeper in my soul, suggested by my pillow, signed by fate. First, in fate's volume, at the page of man, man's sickly soul, though turned and tossed forever from side to side, can rest on naught but thee. Here in full trust, hereafter in full joy, on thee, the promised, sure, eternal down of spirits, toiled and travelled through this vale. Nor of that pillow shall my soul despond, for love almighty, sing, exalt creation, love almighty reigns. That death of death, that cordial of despair, and loud eternity's triumphant song, of whom no more, for O thou patron God, thou God immortal, thence more God to man, man's theme eternal, man's eternal theme, thou canst not scape uninjured from our praise, uninjured from our praise can he escape, who, disembosomed from the Father bows, the heaven of heavens, to kiss the distant earth, breathes out in agonies a sinless soul, against the cross death's iron scepter breaks, from famished ruin plucks her human prey, throws wide the gates celestial to his foes, their gratitude for such a boundless debt deputes their suffering brothers to receive, and if deep human guilt in payment fails, as deeper guilt prohibits our despair, and joins it as our duty to rejoice, and to close all, omnipotently kind, takes his delights among the sons of men. What words are these? And did they come from heaven? And were they spoke to man, to guilty man? What are all mysteries to love like this? The songs of angels, all the melodies of choral gods, are wafted in the sound. Heal and exhilarate the broken heart, though plunged before in horrors dark as night. Rich prelibation of consummate joy, nor wait we dissolution to be blessed. This final effort of the moral muse, how justly titled, nor for me alone, for all that read, what spirit of support, what heights of consolation, crown my song. Then, farewell night, of darkness now no more, joy breaks, shines, triumphs, 'tis eternal day. Shall that which rises out of naught complain of a few evils, paid with endless joys? My soul, henceforth in sweetest union join the two supports of human happiness, which some erroneous think can never meet. True taste of life and constant thought of death, the thought of death, sole victor of its dread. Hope be thy joy, and probity thy skill. Thy patron he, whose diadem has dropped yon gems of heaven, eternity thy prize. And leave the racers of the world their own, their feather and their froth, for endless toils. They part with all for that which is not bread. They mortify, they starve on wealth, fame, power, and laugh to scorn the fools that aim at more. How must a spirit, late escaped from earth, suppose Philander's, Lucia's, or Narcissa's, the truth of things new blazing in its eye, look back, astonished, on the ways of men, whose lives' whole drift is to forget their graves, and when our present privilege is past, to scourge us with due sense of its abuse, the same astonishment will seize us all. What then must pain us, would preserve us now? Lorenzo, 'tis not yet too late. Lorenzo, seize wisdom, ere 'tis torment to be wise. That is, seize wisdom, ere she seizes thee. For what, my small philosopher, is hell? 'Tis nothing but full knowledge of the truth. When truth, resisted long, is sworn our foe, and calls eternity to do her right. Thus darkness, aiding intellectual light, and sacred silence whispering truths divine, and truths divine converting pain to peace, my song the midnight raven has outwinged, and shot, ambitious of unbounded scenes, beyond the flaming limits of the world, her gloomy flight. But what avails the flight of fancy when our hearts remain below? Virtue abounds in flatterers and foes. 'Tis pride to praise her, penance to perform, to more than words, to more than worth of tongue. Lorenzo, rise at this auspicious hour, an hour when heaven's most intimate with man, when like a fallen star the ray divine glides swift into the bosom of the just, and just are all, determined to reclaim, which sets that title high within thy reach. Awake then, thy philander calls, awake! Thou who shalt wake when the creation sleeps, when like a taper all these suns expire, when time like him of Gaza in his wrath, plucking the pillars that support the world, in nature's ample ruins lies entombed, and midnight, universal midnight, reigns. End of Section 9, Part 3. Recording by Ania E. End of The Complaint or Night Thoughts by Edward Young.